Breaking right now, Prince Harry has been cast aside by one of his former allies and friends who appeared in his Netflix series and thrown under the bus by another as this Centre Bali charity racism, harassment, bullying and cover-up scandal gets worse by the hour. Now, central to this story is the treatment of the charity chief, a very wonderful woman called Dr. Sophie Chandoka, by Meghan Markle. And this is new footage which we have seen today, which shows her acting like a, quote, mean girl by ignoring the accomplished woman of colour at the charity event, the Centre Bali charity event, which sparked this big bust-up because, of course, when Dr. Sophie refused to go public to defend Meghan Markle's behaviour, that's when Harry went mad. Meanwhile, Harry's friend and apparent ally, Alex Rayner, he is an old Etonian school pal of the prince who went to the North Pole with him in 2012, has made the situation even more grim. He told the Daily Mail overnight, H is very happy for me to speak for him about how he feels about this awful situation. He is just beyond heartbroken and flabbergasted that the charity he founded as a teenager has been taken hostage by the chair. It feels tantamount to a hostile takeover. It feels like Dr. Sophie had her nose put out of joint because she was not the most important woman of colour on the stage. There is an undercurrent of stink here because Meghan showed up and it is coming from her. Dr. Sophie, the chair, should never have let that narrative take hold that Meghan had caused an issue. If that narrative did take hold, then I would argue it is down to the chair to put it right. They could have issued a statement and put a stop to it, but they did not. Why? Again, this whole thing smells. It feels planned, and I suspect that the whole thing could only have come from the chair herself. Wow, that is totally tone deaf because I want to show you what happened on stage at that charity event. I covered it at the time. The mainstream media did not, but watch closely because it's not Dr. Sophie Chandoka who causes an issue, it is Meghan Markle.
Thank you very much, Andrew Tucker, for putting on such a great day here at Public. Again, a big thank you to all those who provided horses.
Meanwhile, Kahindi Andrew, a Harry and Meghan ally, he's actually a revolting guy, but he appeared on their Netflix show, has now brutally turned on Harry, suggesting that he probably is racist. So we're going to get analysis from Rafe Hadel-Manku and Alex Phillips imminently, but first I just want you to watch what he had to say to Piers Morgan.
None of this is very good, is it?
It is undoubted that when Harry and Meghan were in the family, they experienced problems, as anybody would expect. That royal family is one of the symbols of white supremacy, is deeply racist, so they experienced that. It is also true that Prince Harry is a representative of that symbol of white supremacy. What do you expect? Are we actually surprised that someone from the elite, from the aristocracy, went to Africa in his gap year, started a charity, and then acts really pompous and imperial to the black woman who runs it? This is not news. Honestly, this is not news. Two things can be true. They experience racism and they complain about it, and yes, more than likely, Harry is even if these accusations aren't true, it's deeply unlikely that Prince Harry has not acted in a colonial manner in his pet project on the African continent. So,
isn't this great? It's the woke eating itself. This is why Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were so stupid to ally themselves to align themselves, with a man like Kahindi Andrew. He hadn't finished.
this is constant harassment that she's got. And like I said, I'm not a big fan. And I would also stress, I think it's important to say, look, I'm not a big fan of either of them. And I'm not surprised Prince Harry's been accused of these things, but you don't have to be a good person to experience racism. You can have experienced racism and be an awful person, and you can go and perpetuate racism.
The now viral clip, leaked by a former volunteer, shows Meghan Markle at a charity event in LA, appearing cold, dismissive, and visibly irritated during a private exchange with the head of the organization. Witnesses claim Meghan cut the woman off mid-sentence, rolled her eyes, and allegedly muttered, "Let's not waste time." That moment alone set off alarm bells. But it's what happened after that really raised eyebrows. Sources say Meghan's attitude left the charity team shaken, with one staff member calling it the most awkward interaction we've ever had with a public figure. But here's the kicker. Prince Harry was furious. He reportedly pulled Meghan aside and confronted her over her behavior.
Rafe Hadelman-Coot, this is an astonishing story on so many levels. Where do you want to start?
Good. Well, let's start with the odious Hindi Andrews, the most vile and despicable race grifter out there. And there's quite a crowded series of contestants for that title. Look, whether or not the accusations made against Harry and Meghan are true, I think most viewers of this channel will be feeling a great degree of schadenfreude that they are finally getting a taste of their own medicine, finding themselves now in precisely the position they put the royal family in with their baseless accusations of racism and bullying as well. And it may just very well be that, Meghan has met more than her match in Dr. Chandauka here, who had a very impressive career, let's remember. This is not some thin-skinned snowflake who takes offense very quickly. And this was a corporate finance lawyer, ran internationally departments for Morgan Stanley, an international bank, set up a biotech company. She's an entrepreneur with that, senior figure in Meta, which owns Instagram and Facebook. This is a very, very senior and serious figure. And if she feels that if she wanted to launch a lawsuit, which she does, she must understand that she has the legal expertise to know that it's based upon some firm footing here. So I would be very worried if I was not only Prince Harry, but if I was a member of his board of trustees. And also, and the irony here, of course, is that this is not some conservative woman. She's also working herself. She wanted to turn Centobale into a charity focused upon health, wealth, and climate resilience throughout Africa, having said, having HIV/AIDS is no longer a death sentence. We need to expand our mission. And of course, she's now accusing Prince Harry of misogynoir. Now, misogynoir is a new term to me, but it means misogyny against black women. Now, that's precisely the sort of term you would have expected Meghan to come up with. And ironically, it's now being used against her husband as well. I mean, this is like watching an episode of Woke Gladiators, I would say here.
Yes,
or Woke
indeed.
Grievance Gladiators.
And I am going to enjoy it. Alex Phillips, what I found most astonishing about this line from Alex Rayner, who is claiming that he is speaking on behalf of Prince Harry, they're certainly friends, is that he said, it feels like Dr. Chandauka had her nose point out of joint because she was not the most important woman of colour on the stage. Now, that's quite a despicable thing to say, isn't it? He's suggesting that Dr. Sophie Chandauka is in some way jealous of Meghan Markle. Now, this is a woman who, as Rafe said, has been highly successful in her own career, didn't want to thrust herself in the public spotlight. Indeed, when Harry wanted her to speak out publicly, she didn't do so. So I just feel that's an outrageous claim.
Yeah, it is an outrageous claim. I mean, what has Meghan Markle done with her life? She opened some boxes on that prize show, whatever.
Oh, Deal or No Deal.
Dressed like a slapper, and she was in a pretty low-grade rubbish American sitcom, and then she pursued Harry doggedly because she's so desperate to be connected to somebody of celebrity status, so desperate to play the part of a royal. And then what's she done? She's just lounging around in Montecito, cooking rubbish food for Netflix, failing in all of her projects. So she's a bit low-grade in my opinion. I'd much rather be mates with that other woman who's pretty impressive sounding. But this is always what happens, isn't it? Harry is so obsessed with Meghan. It's so peculiar.
Telling her she was too harsh, and that it reflected poorly on both of them. One insider even claims Harry left the event early, visibly upset and refusing to take part in post-event photos. Now, this isn't just about bad optics. This incident has allegedly sparked tension between Harry and Meghan, who've already faced growing public backlash, cancelled deals, and family estrangement. According to royal biographer Angela Levin, Harry's patience is wearing thin, especially when Meghan's actions continue to undermine their public image. Quote, Harry's realizing the brand they built may be built on sand, and every scandal brings it closer to collapse.
Something really sort of Oedipal and odd about that relationship. Meghan goes around pretending to be, the sort of second coming of Princess Diana, his mum. He goes, isn't she gorgeous? Isn't she just like my mum? And it's like, well, don't stick your willy in her. That's really creepy. It can't sort of buy into this. Meghan is someone so sort of, super earthly and superhuman that we almost bow down at her feet. And the fact that he's allowed that to get in the way of his charitable work. This is a man who, as a young man, adored Africa, adored his visits there, was very proud of setting up these charities and these foundations. That really gave him purpose in life. and everyone applauded him for it. But now he's allowed his sort of sick obsession with his own wife and his sort of jumping on the woke bandwagon to completely destroy the only thing that he's ever achieved as well.
But what I also thought was fascinating, Rafe, is Queer Lips of Truth, which is a post on X, or they posted on X, but they're doing some really good work at the moment on the whole royal thing. And it really crystallized my thinking on this. They said, think about all the people Prince Harry has pressured to issue statements about his wife, who always leaves many crying in their wake. And the list is astonishing. The New York Police Department, Archewell staff, South African staff, Australian staff, Buckingham Palace staff, Kensington Palace staff, Centre Bali, the Invictus Games, Gavin Newsom, the Uvalde survivors' families. The list goes on. And as Melanated Mona posted, Buckingham Palace continues to hide the bullying allegations. So the thing is, Rafe, this is not the first time. The Hollywood Reporter recently revealed that Meghan had been accused of bullying by Archewell staff as well, who described her as a dictator duchess in high heels. So maybe if this was the first sort of accusation, you'd look into it a bit more closely, but there are now so many of these.
Myriad accusations. Well, you got to see, the passive aggressiveness of Meghan just in that Centable polo match. You could see with the way she was gesturing. Had the cameras not been turned on, I wonder what you actually would have seen in reality. We know, of course, that the accusations have come from so many sources of bullying that there must certainly be more, like a kernel or more than a kernel of truth. And yet again, Prince Harry brings out the machines and his everything he can do to try to get people to defend her. Nadine Dorries had a very good article about this in the Mail. She calls it flying monkey syndrome, reference to the Wizard of Oz, where these monkeys were so beholden to the Wicked Witch of the West that they would do anything to protect her. And it sort of seems as if poor Prince Harry is suffering from this very same syndrome, even though it's causing damage not only to himself, but, to the charity that actually was one of the few things that's been a grounding element in most of his adult life. It's terribly depressing to see all of that.
Alex Phillips, what's interesting, you've spent a lot of time in Africa. What seems quite interesting here is there's this split between Sophie Chandoka, who wants to move much more of Centre Bali's efforts actually out of Africa, not have them based in the UK or the US. Is this a common thing as people sort of move away from what is it called, the white savior narrative?
Is this the breaking point? Critics are pointing to a pattern, from bullying allegations in the palace to rumored diva behavior on set, and now this charity clash. Is Meghan simply misunderstood? Or are we seeing the real persona that so many former staffers warned about? This video might not be definitive proof, but the body language, tone, and public fallout tell a story that's hard to ignore. And Harry, stuck in the middle, might finally be seeing it all for what it is. If even charity executives are being treated this way, what's really happening behind the scenes of the Sussex Empire?
Perhaps. I mean, look, there's a huge amount of charitable work that takes place in Africa. A load of foreign aid goes into the continent. Certain cities like Nairobi, where I used to live, are very much the headquarters of most of the big charitable organizations. And what was interesting, actually, is her sensible strategic approach of saying, HIV is no longer the big issue of the day. There's great access to medications often provided by foreign charities, and we need to start looking at doing other things. And it's a lot of Africans actually reflect this sentiment. Africans don't want to be on the receiving end of blank charity checks. What they want is to have grey-collar jobs. What they want is a sort of trade relationships between their countries and the rest of the world that enable them to have factories and enable them to be on production lines and enable them to become trade negotiators or HR managers and not just sort of work in the fields toiling for a few pennies a day. And I think I get the impression actually that her approach to where she wanted the charity to go was probably the right one.
I think that's an important point, because if you look at the board of trustees have all resigned as well, but they're very much Harry's old guard. There's an old boys network who have similar attitudes and paternalistic beliefs to Prince Harry in terms of how you develop aid and so forth and help in Africa. And I think there's a great culture clash here, because who hasn't resigned? None of Dr. Chandoka's executive committee who actually work for the charity have resigned. None of her 500 staff have resigned. They seem to understand the need to go in a new direction, and they realize that this board of trustees, who've been there for far too long, as she said, they far extended the term that they should normally have served. they're simply not reflecting the reality of where Africa is at the moment and what this charity needs to do. She's a high-powered woman. She knows, she's a jet setter who knows what needs to be done, and I think they just simply are standing in the way of this charity.
Yes, very good point, Rafe. And remember as well, sitting alongside her on this during this extraordinary interview on Sly News at the weekend with Trevor Phillips was a guy called Ian Rawlinson, who is sticking by Dr. Sophie Chandoka, and he is a close ally of Prince William, which I think is another fascinating layer to all of this. But it is just worth having a look at, I would argue, the biggest bombshell from that interview.
Isn't the problem here that it was you was the problem, not the prince?
It was me who was the problem because I put a whistleblower complaint about the bullying, the harassment, and the misogyny, and Prince Harry interfered in the investigation of that. And the senior independent director who should have taken care of it was the very same person who then delivered the news to me that I was going to be removed by the board. So it's a cover-up, and the prince is involved.
I mean, that last line, Rafe, it's extraordinary. Because we know, even though it hasn't never been published, I know that he was also involved in the cover-up of Meghan's bullying at Kensington Palace and then at Buckingham Palace.
It's the same old practice again, except this time, of course, things are different, because this time the Charity Commission itself is doing an investigation. And if it does find things that back up what Dr. Chandoka is saying, then it can actually take things onto a statutory footing for an investigation. So we are far from the end of this story. It has a long way to go, with potentially even more damaging revelations to come.
Indeed, and we will keep across this, of course.
Could this be a turning point for Harry? Or just another scandal swept under the royal rug? Let us know what you think in the comments. Smash that like button if you're tired of the double standards. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories they don't want you to hear.